All right, I'll go ahead and begin. Hello, everybody. Hello, friends. Welcome, and thank you so much for attending the webinar. We like to do these. I would love to do these every quarter. I don't always get around to it every quarter, but I like to do these webinars. I like to get everybody together and just kind of talk about what's going on at GL Solutions. Some of you here are current clients. Some of you here are not current clients. So I'm going to position the content a little bit in a way that for some current clients, it may be stuff that you've already heard before. So I apologize if there's some repeat things that you're like, yeah, Sam, I already know this, because there are some attendees that are not current clients. So welcome to our new product updates and cybersecurity enhancements. This is the GL Solutions webinar. For those that were not able to attend live, we will have a recording that we'll produce through our newsletter. We'll make available on our website. And then for those current clients, those of you that would like a link to this, you can also ask your AP directly and they'll be able to provide you a link to this webinar. But those of you that made time to be on today, I appreciate you very much. All right, let's talk about some webinar housekeeping. Many of you may not be super familiar with Demio, this platform that we're using to do the webinar. So you guys are muted right now. So you have to be on stage to be able to speak and be heard. I am the only one on stage. That's by design. However, at the end of this webinar, we'll give a chance for if anybody wants to come on stage. I love to have open dialogue, talk to people if that's something that you would like. Question submission. So if you guys see the Demio application, there should be a little kind of mini screen to your right that says chat, polls, and handouts. So as I'm going through the webinar, if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and enter your question in the chat. You'll see Todd and Alex have already entered some items in the chat. So feel free to use that chat as we go along through the webinar today. And if there's any questions that we'll try to respond to you in the chat. Also, my team, if there's some good questions that might be something good for me to bring up in conversation, my team will also highlight it for me as I'm doing the webinar so that we can have a broader discussion and talk about it. So this is your guys' time. Feel free to ask questions. I like responding to those questions and I like having a discussion about them. Anybody that's worked with me, I'm totally happy to respond to any type of question. There is no bad question. Also, there are some handouts that are attached to this webinar. So also in that little mini screen on Demio, up in the top, I guess that's the top left-hand corner of that mini screen where it says chat, polls, and handouts. If you select the handout menu item there, I guess I would say, you'll see some one sheets that for the new products that we're rolling out, you can see some one sheets there and you can download them and review them. They'll also be on our website, also be on our newsletters, available to you that way as well. But just know there's some extra information there in the handout section of the Demio application. And as I mentioned, we'll have a Q&A session at the end of this where if anybody wants to come on stage and talk, we'll make that available as well. Okay, let's get into the webinar. So today's agenda, I'll walk through it. We're going to be talking about GovRAMP. You probably, if you guys are subscribing to our newsletter or talked to me anytime in the last year, you've probably heard about GovRAMP. We're going to take a deep dive into it today, talk about what that means for you at a state level, what that means for you as an agency, department, or commission. We're going to talk about GL Suites, GL Solutions, Ready security status and what that means in the grand scheme of security compliance. We're going to talk about some new build changes. I'll discuss that at length when we get to that section. We're constantly making updates to the core application of our system. Sometimes you guys notice those. Sometimes there's core updates that you're not even aware of that we're doing because they don't really affect the UI and the usability of the system that you know about, like security patches, things like that. So I want to talk about some of the new build changes that are already being implemented out there. And then we have 3 new product offerings that are released. So these are available today. These are not products that we're thinking about building. These are not products that we're in the process of building. These products are released and available to all of our clients. So we're going to talk about mobile inspections. We're going to talk about DocuSign integration. Finally, we're going to talk about translation tools within the app and the back end of the application. And then lastly, I want to talk about the submit a task tool. These are future. This is what we're building for the submit a task tool. So any of you that are current clients, it's not available today, but these are going to be some things that we're going to be updating to make it easier, more simple, and seamless for you guys to submit a task, because we want to make that as easy as possible for you guys and easy as possible for us to diagnose what you're entering. And then, like I said, at the last part, we'll have some closing remarks and some questions there. All right. So for those of you that aren't familiar, that aren't current clients, a little bit about Deal Solutions. I won't bore you about this too much, but we've been around for 27 years. We come from the domain of licensing, permitting, and case management. So we're a company created by regulators for regulators. So, you know, our application is the way and the initial way it was configured, set up. The original design of it was always for the regulatory community. This is not a CRM tool that was, you know, augmented to support licensing and case management and permitting. Our system has always been, and really always been at the state level for different boards and different industries. So we kind of like to think of it as a Swiss Army knife. There's things in our system that because we specifically work at the level for regulators, things like requirements traceability matrix, things like, you know, documentation around what we're building as far as STSs, those things automatically just populate in our system, which, you know, are automatically created because we built it that way from the very, very beginning stages of GL Solutions 27 years ago. And the configurability of the system is built in. So, you know, when you want to make configuration changes, it's all based around the aspect of licensing and case management. So if you want to add a new object, it's going to give you objects that are related to the regulatory industry. So we specialize in complex and scalable systems for licensing, permitting, and case management, as I mentioned. So, you know, the systems that, you know, require inspections, require, you know, cap items, things like that. We really have found kind of a niche in that area where, you know, we obviously do, you know, occupational licensing, but we've also kind of found a nice little home in things like childcare, weapons licensing, facility provider licensing, things like that. So not simply just occupational licensing for, you know, things like that. There was security first mindset and approach. I'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about GovRAMP. You know, we're always thinking about having a secure system that's at the forefront of our mind when we build things. We are very cautious in that aspect. So, you know, when we create new products or implement new systems, it's always with a security first mindset. And we kind of back that up by our investment in the GovRAMP compliance that we've entered. So simply put, our mission is to help government agencies run, grow, and adapt. That's what we've been doing since day one. And that's what we're going to continue doing into the future. So let's talk a little bit about GovRAMP. For those of you that haven't heard me talk about it a million times, I'm going to just do a kind of a brief overview of what GovRAMP is. So GovRAMP, for those of you, it was formerly known as StateRAMP. So they go by GovRAMP. If anybody's familiar with FedRAMP, it's kind of like, it's a different organization, but it's the kind of sister or brother or younger sibling of FedRAMP is kind of a good way to think about it. So GovRAMP is a nonprofit membership organization that supports states in securely adopting cloud technologies. So let's break that down a little bit. Cloud technologies, so we're talking about systems that are hosted in the cloud. You know, that's the way the industry has gone is it's gone kind of away from the on-prem, if anybody's familiar with that, on-premises hosting, and away from the co-locations and physical servers that hold the data that you guys own, that we support with the system. When I say you guys, I mean the specific agencies, boards, and commissions. So we're specifically talking about cloud. So we've migrated every one of our clients off of co-location and physical servers, and our systems are completely on the cloud now, and we're going to continue that. There's a lot of other companies out there that don't even allow any other type of options of hosting, and so that's the first part. It's cloud systems, and it's a membership organization. So we are a member. We actually also sit on the advisory board for GovRAMP. We have presence there, so we're kind of deeply ingrained and a part of what's going on in this security and compliance realm for your guys' systems. So what does GovRAMP do? GovRAMP establishes a standardized, streamlined security verification process for cloud products aligned with NIST 853. Most people maybe have heard of NIST 853, but for those of you who haven't, there are different security standards that have been implemented and in place in a long time. And so what this map is showing you is it's showing you the different states in the US that have adopted GovRAMP security compliance policies, controls, and have started to integrate it within their procurement process and in their centralized IT departments. So you can see there's a lot of blue states there. That means there's a lot of states starting to adopt this. And so, you know, if I had to kind of give you my off the cuff, you know, kind of explanation of this, if your state isn't blue right now, it's probably going to be blue at some point in the near future. You know, if I were to look at this map a year ago or 2 years ago, there was many less states that were blue. So this is a rapidly kind of evolving kind of wave of security compliance that's going pretty fast. A lot of states are adopting this. A lot of states already have. We became aware of GovRAMP about 2 years ago. And I have to give credit where credit's due. Actually, the Arizona State CIO, J.R. Sloan, who was one of the founders of GovRAMP, actually made us aware about GovRAMP, which is kind of GovRAMP was kind of like a step up from AZRAMP, if anybody's familiar with that, which was the state kind of security compliance. And so he made us aware of that, and we were actually kind of Johnny on the spot for getting involved in GovRAMP. And so we were actually one of the first licensing vendors to get involved with GovRAMP. We're really proud of the status and where we're at with GovRAMP. It's taken a lot of investment. It's taken a lot of time, a lot of verification of our security controls to get to where we're at with GovRAMP right now. So we're really proud about that. So let's talk a little bit about the GovRAMP security statuses. So as you can see here, there's levels to this. So there's levels to your GovRAMP security status for a vendor. So you know, we're talking about software vendors. And so you can see you initially go through the snapshot phase where there's going to be a PMO office within GovRAMP that goes out and reviews some of your NIST scores, looks at some of your security controls. There's 40 of those. That's kind of your initial snapshot into where you as a software vendor kind of live and where you're at in your progression and becoming ultimately what's called GovRAMP Authorized or provisionally authorized status, which is the highest level of achievement there in GovRAMP. So from the snapshot, you move to the progressing snapshot, which is where you start to engage with GovRAMP in a consistent basis. So not only are you getting that snapshot, they're giving you a score of how you score against those 40 controls. You have monthly advisory and quarterly snapshot updates for the progression that you're making to become fully GovRAMP compliant. There's core status, which means you've demonstrated the achievement within the assessment. So the assessment kind of grows and becomes more, I don't want to say rigid because that has kind of a negative connotation. I want to say more comprehensive would probably be a better word to say. Like, as you go through the different statuses, it's going to become, there's going to be more security controls. There's going to be a higher threshold for what you have to meet, right? So in that core status, it gets a little bit more comprehensive. You get a little bit more involved with GovRAMP, and you have a little bit more involvement in a certified project manager that's overseeing your security compliance with GovRAMP standards. And so the next involvement, which is what GL Solutions has achieved, is called the Ready status, which demonstrates achievements with Ready audit, which means, you know, not only have we demonstrated that we've achieved those, now it's 80 NIST controls, which are security controls, and it's been validated by what's called a 3PO. That's a independent accredited firm that's outside of GovRAMP that is contracted through GovRAMP that goes and reviews these and confirms these. And just to kind of give you an insight to what that means, you have auditors that come out to your physical location where your business is, and they review things such as, I mean, pretty much everything under the sun, your physical hardware, your software, obviously, and then also your facility, your employees, and all of your policies and procedures around security and compliance. So, you know, there's a heavy emphasis on the software, but there's also things like, do you have a locked facility? Is the timeout sessions applicable to meet those standards? Are employees receiving security training and verification over time? So we actually had some auditors come out to our office there in Montana and spend a little over a week with us, kind of confirming that not only is our software, but our hardware and our policies and procedures and our physical location meets those compliance standards for security. And so we are working toward the final and last stage, which is the authorized or provisionally authorized status. We look to be there, let's see, sometime this year. Probably by the middle of this year, we're looking to become fully authorized. And, you know, just to, again, kind of sing our praises for the work that we've done around this, is we are the only licensing software vendor that has made it to the Ready status so far. There are other licensing vendors that are in the snapshot or progressing snapshot phases with GovRAMP. We are the farthest along in the licensing SaaS software vendors in this space. There's other companies that are software companies that don't do licensing that are fully authorized. And there's other companies that do licensing that just aren't as far along in this progression as we are. Again, that kind of speaks to our security first mindset and how we became made aware of GovRAMP and quickly started integrating, adopting, and moving along the statuses there. So yeah, that gives you a little breakdown into where the statuses exist within GovRAMP. So GovRAMP and GL Solutions, obviously first security first approach. We've been a GovRAMP member since 2024. We achieved GovRAMP Ready status, verified status in January of 2026. We're actively working towards our GovRAMP Authorized status, estimated middle to end of 2026. And we have our cool little GovRAMP badge that we like to show off every time we can, because we feel like we've earned that. We've done a lot of work and invested a lot of money and time into receiving our GovRAMP Ready status for software as a service in the licensing field. Okay, so now I want to take GovRAMP, and so I've kind of explained what GovRAMP is. I've explained how GL Solutions has integrated and where progression is on the GovRAMP statuses. Now I want to take it to like the state level. So, again, from the simplest way I could explain it is in the past, before GovRAMP, which was formerly known as StateRAMP, each state has probably a central IT unit or some form of CTO office. They had specific requirements around the security protocols of system that their state boards, commissions, and agencies interacted with. Now, what they found is in the past is each state was a little bit different. And so what GovRAMP does is it applies a standardization across all states to make it an even playing field and actually a higher threshold for security and compliance standards. So it is, so one of the things that we like about it is that it creates a centralized standard across, as you saw the blue states there, and soon to be probably the whole country, and rather than having each state had its own little security standards. Most of them were pretty similar, right? But some of them had a little bit more robust, a little bit less robust security standards, which made it a little bit, you never knew. If you were going into like a procurement of a new system in a state, you kind of never knew like, okay, what are we going to get into? What's their level of security assessment? It just standardizes across the different states. So what does this mean for each specific state? I'm only going to go into 3 states because I don't have 5 hours. But so Arizona, like I said, is one of the kind of the first states to kind of build upon StateRAMP security protocols that were really closely aligned with what GovRAMP has created. And so if anybody's not familiar, ASRAMP is the Arizona Risk and Authorization Management Program. So the State of Arizona Cloud Security Program, StateRAMP, is officially transitioning to the GovRAMP framework. So as of July of last year, all new contracts will include risk assessment requirements that align with GovRAMP program. So last year they made that update. And then as of July, so coming this year in 2026, all renewals for vendors that state agencies work with will include risk assessment requirements that align with GovRAMP or FedRAMP. So just kind of giving you some of the adoption here in the States, what that's looking like. And then also to kind of make it clear, because I don't know, because I don't work for a state agency and I'm not, a part of that every single day. Like, I don't know how much the CTO offices or CIOs or members of that organization are communicating to the boards. Maybe they are communicating a ton of this, but like, I don't know if a lot of the boards, commissions, and departments know, like, there are requirements now that the vendors that you're working with are aligning with GovRAMP. And if they don't, I'm not a member of the CTO offices, but they're going to start saying you either can't renew or your vendor needs to get on board with this pretty soon for a lot of these states. So one of the things is I just want to, kind of be very transparent, open about this. Like, you as board representatives and regulators in this industry should start asking your vendors, if it's not GL Solutions, like, hey, where are you guys at your GovRAMP? Because my state's going to start requiring this for renewals. It's going to start requiring it for new procurements, this alignment with GovRAMP. So I think that's a pretty big deal that I don't think gets discussed enough and that doesn't get talked about enough. Like, what do you do if you're with a vendor that's not aligned with GovRAMP? And one of the things that I also failed to mention a little bit earlier is one of the great things about GovRAMP is I mentioned with the 3 PAO audits, is that no longer can vendors self-attest to compliance. And so if you check out, I think I did a podcast with Leah, who is, I think she's the director or executive director there at GovRAMP. She had talked about in the past, before we had things like GovRAMP, these vendors were able to self-attest to meeting some of these controls, which, you know, that's kind of like when I met my wife and on my dating profile, I put that I was 6'2". You know, I'm really 6'1", but you know, it's, I don't know how, you know, that's not really verified. Like anybody can self-attest and be like, yeah, we meet these security standards or compliance standards, but do you really? And having that like verification of by a third party accredited institution like that really forces you to, you know, just simply attesting and saying, yes, we meet these standards doesn't fly anymore. You have to actually go out and prove it through your controls and through your policies and through your software and what's implemented in your software. So I think that's, you know, when you're thinking about having a secure system and protecting your licensee constituents from cybersecurity threats, protecting their PII, this is really important. That, you know, this is a really big component of that. And, you know, you guys, the last thing any of the regulators want is security issues, right? Dealing with leaked information, dealing with attacks, anything like that is terrible. It's not fun for anybody. It creates a bunch of headaches. And so to really protect your system, I think GovRAMP is the way to go. So we'll move on to the next state. Nevada is another state that's started to integrate with GovRAMP. So as of July 1st of 2026, all new contracts will include a risk assessment requirement that aligns with GovRAMP program. So as of this year, GovRAMP's jumping on board, or the state of Nevada is jumping on board with GovRAMP. At a minimum, products must achieve GovRAMP core status. So some state data types will require a GovRAMP authorized status. So they're really starting to implement this, and at a minimum. So, you know, it's, I don't mean to like, I really am not trying to use a scare tactic here, but it's like some of these vendors that are not at a minimum at this GovRAMP core status, like I don't know what's going to happen. And it's something that I think people need to start thinking about and start wondering, like, how secure is my system? And do I comply with where my state stands on state security? And I don't know why you'd ever get involved with a company that isn't forward leaning and thinking about that and aligning with your state. So, and then as of July 1st of 2028, all contracts will include risk assessment requirements that align with GovRAMP status. And so on each one of these slides, guys, and also if you will make it available to you, but you don't have to take my word for it. You know, you can go out to their websites. You know, this is the Nevada Governor's Technology Office. You can see it directly from them. I'm just kind of highlighting it to you and explaining it to you but you don't have to take my word for it. You can go to these links and check it out yourself. So this is coming straight from the states and their technology offices. North Carolina is another state that's recently aligned themselves with GovRAMP. So as of April 1st, 2025, all new contract solicitations will require a GovRAMP verified status. So they can't even procure a new system or go into a contract with a system for licensing if they're not GovRAMP verified status. North Carolina will observe a 1-year on-ramp period for vendors that begin GovRAMP verification process. So if they do even look to get into solicitation with a vendor, the vendor is going to have to prove, yes, we are going through this process of GovRAMP certification. And as of April 1st, 2027, all new contracts will require GovRAMP verified status at the time of bid submission. So that gets even more stringent, right? So in 2027, North Carolina is saying you can't even submit, if we're talking about like a formal solicitation, such as an RFP, request for proposal to select a vendor for their licensing software at the time of bid submission. So when you send in your RFP and say, we would like to be a vendor for this state and for this specific board, you will have to verify your GovRAMP status. So that's going to completely like eliminate some vendors from even being able to respond to solicitations in 2027 for the state of North Carolina, some other states as well too. So again, we linked the North Carolina Department of Information Technology here that was released in February of this year. So you can go out and take a look at that as well if you want to look at the specific language. I would also encourage you guys to reach out to your members of the CTO offices, and if you are in a position where you're not working with a vendor currently, what's going to happen to you guys and your system. So that wraps up the GovRAMP. I'll take just a quick minute here. If anybody has any questions about GovRAMP, go ahead and enter them. I'm happy to discuss the GovRAMP certification and anything with the states before I move into the new build rollout for the core of GL Suite. And all right, if nobody has any questions, I'll roll right into the new build rollout for GL Solutions core application. GL Suite is our application, the application for GL Solutions. We're going to new build version 7.49.0. It's the latest GL Suite build that's rolling out to clients. It's actively rolling out, I think, right now. So this new build includes core product improvements and enables support for new features. So some of the new products that I'm going to be showing off here in a second: mobile forms, DocuSign integration, language translation, and AI are some of the new feature build outs that are supported by this build version 7.49.0. It also includes some ADA compliance in this new build rollout. So I've spoke to a lot of you current clients, and a lot of you current clients have either brought this up to me or we've had a discussion about it, and even some of the not current clients have brought this up to me, and even in some of the demos that we've done for RFPs and official solicitations have included. I'm starting to see more and more that these demos are requiring us to go out and validate and prove our WCAG compliance. And what WCAG is, for anybody that's unaware, that is the the Web Control Accessibility Guidelines. So essentially it's the accessibility of your websites and backend to support those with I want to say how would I say this? The accessibility of the system. So to making sure that it supports everybody accessing it. So those that are maybe blind or deaf, they can still utilize our systems. It's just some examples of what this WCAG 2.1 AA standard. So the 2.1 AA standards is the newest version of the web accessibility standards. So some of the stuff that we're updating in this core rollout that aligns with the ADA compliance is some of the back-end UI. Like, you guys might not really notice this because it's not huge changes, but like things down to like a little bit of the color schemes that we use, the brightness of the colors may change a little bit to be in alignment with WCAG standards. So you may or may not notice it when that new build is released, but things may be a little bit brighter, things like that. Very similar to when iOS on your iPhone has an update, and you update it, and something maybe a little bit brighter, maybe a little bit more, pop, if you will, in the UI. So that's the website, but then also the back end. So what I mean by UI is like how it looks, the aesthetics of it, right? And then, so one thing I want to mention too, here's all the configurable websites will update with the core builds to remain compliant with ADA requirements. So, for those of you that are current clients, you've probably had your APs talking to you about configurable websites. One of the great things about configurable websites is it enables us to always just staying compliant through these core updates as the WCAG 2.1 standards continue to grow, right, and continue to progress. It allows us just through a core update to make sure that your system is compliant rather than going and applying those updates per website. For those of you that have older websites that we built 5, 7, 10 years ago, maybe, one of the things that you're going to want to do if you get asked about this or you get audited or your state starts seeking information about this is you're going to want to work with your AP to enter a scope request to see what that would be to make sure that you are updated to the latest WCAG 2.1 AA standards. Because 2 years ago, a year ago, 3 years ago, maybe when we built the websites that you guys are on, if you're not on configurable websites, may have not been up to those standards because this was just recently released. And so we want to look to make sure we make those updates for you and make sure that it's all accessible there. Another thing that's coming out with the core rollout is timeout messaging. So again, to be compliant with GovRAMP and your state security standards, all of our systems have a timeout session. Why do we have that? Well, if a staff member, in some of your guys' systems, you guys have things like social security numbers, PII, credit card information. We do not want to allow somebody to leave their computer open and the wrong individual to be able to see social security numbers or things like that they shouldn't be seeing. And so what I mean by inactivity is if somebody is logged into the prod environment, so that's the live environment of our system, and there's a certain amount of inactivity, the system will automatically log them out of the system. And what I mean by inactivity is you're not moving your mouse around, you're not like interacting with the system, you're not typing things in, you're not clicking around, you're just simply in the environment, not engaging with it. And the thresholds for the timeout sessions are something that can be configured, so we can make it up to a certain point to be compliant. We can make it longer, we can make it shorter. So that is something that you guys can work with us to control. Some agencies that we work with have a really strict, we only want it 5 minutes or something. Other agencies are a little bit more, 10 minutes, whatever it may be, but you do have some control over the timeout session there. But what we're going to do is in this new rollout of the core, it's going to give you a warning if there's inactivity, letting you know, hey, you're going to be logged out in apparently hundreds of seconds. We're really making you aware. In 277 seconds, you're going to be logged out. So, and then you can click the button to say stay logged in. I do not want to be logged out of my session. Or you can say, yeah, I want to log out. So it's just giving you awareness of, hey, there is a timeout session here, and it's going to be coming up here. Okay. So I want to get into a little bit of the new product offerings. So I want to talk a little bit now about GL Suite mobile inspections. So for any of you that are current clients that have mobile inspections with us, like in the past, we in the past had worked with a third-party company for our mobile inspections. That's called Do Forms, if you guys are familiar with that. So Do Forms was not a GL Solutions company, and their platform integrated with our solution to create mobile inspection. So what we've done now is we've actually created the mobile inspections feature in our own application. So it's all ran by GL Solutions now. And so what does that mean for you guys? Well, So that means that our mobile inspections are going to be better integrated within your workflows and business processes because we're the ones creating the configuration around it. No longer is it a third-party company that we're integrating with, right? So we're going to be setting it up and configuring it for you. What that also does is that gives us more flexibility and ability to enhance, augment, tailor to your specific needs. We were a little bit hamstrung, right, with a third-party company because we didn't control the actual configuration of their mobile inspections platform. So we could only really enable what they allowed. Now that it's our solution, the sky's the limit. And so I would encourage all of you current clients, if you have ideas around mobile inspections or have questions, or maybe there's something that you've always wondered about with inspections, we love to hear you guys' feedback about that. You guys are the experts out in the field. We're just the nerds that create it and develop it and test it. So we always look to your guys' great feedback to implement new product ideas or to augment our current solutions. And there's just so many examples where you guys, clients, have come to us with wonderful ideas that we've actually implemented into our system. So those of you that do have due forms, you are not going to lose any functionality moving over to Geo Solutions mobile inspections. It has all the same features and functionalities that due forms has. It's just now more seamlessly integrated with your system in Geo Suite. So things like scheduling, tracking, and executing inspections in one place, capturing photos, collect digital signatures, and support remote inspections. And what I mean by remote inspections is offline capabilities. So you no longer, with due forms you didn't either, but you don't have to be connected to the internet to have it sync to the database and pull up information. So I want to show you this real quick. Let's see here. Let me pull it up really quick and I will show you what it looks like. I'm going to open it up here. Can you guys see this mobile inspection? If somebody could give me like a thumbs up that you're seeing it. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so this is an example of what our current Geo Solutions inspection module looks like. So a couple things to note here. I am using a URL to access this mobile inspections. So just like the Geo Suite environments, you'll have a URL that you can log into that will support the mobile inspections. However, you can also see down here, I have it as an app. I'm on my laptop right now doing this demo. You can have the app on your phone. You can have the app on your tablet. You can have the app on your laptop or on your desktop. So just because I'm logged in as a URL right now, it supports both. So you can download the app and then it supports that. That would be especially important for the, if you're not going to have Wi-Fi or anything like that, you'll want to make sure you download the app, and it's a simple click of a button up here. If you just select this, it will enable you to download the Mobile Forms app, so that way you don't have to type in the URL over and over. Also, it tracks your location. So the members of your team that are our inspectors out in the field, it will track their location. So it will make sure that you know where your team's at for those inspections. So I have a couple inspections here that are already kind of preloaded. So, I'm playing the role as an inspector and I logged in with my credentials that I've set up. And so it's gonna load from the back end what inspections are assigned to me and enable me to action those inspections. So if I go ahead and click an inspection here, it's going to preload a lot of the information, right? Because it's pulling from the back end, the database. I don't have to go fill out the address or anything like that. It's just going to pre-populate. And this example is for an EMS system. So Emergency Medical Services Board and Agency. And so they have two things that they conduct. They do their annual inspections for renewals, and then they also do vehicle inspections because EMS systems licenses not only individuals, so EMTs, paramedics, things like that, but they also license vehicles. So, you know, your helicopters, your paramedic vans, things like ambulances, things like that. So as I go through, I'll open up one of these forms. It's going to look exactly however you have your inspection form set up. It's going to mimic that as far as the information that's here. Again, this is all configurable. So whatever the statute or the regulation is for that inspection item, it's going to have that title up here. It'll give you a little bit of information about what this specific question is for the inspection. And if you go ahead and hit edit, you can enter answers, comments, you can update the status based on when you're doing your inspections. And so when you update the status and you can hit compliant, non-compliant, things like that, you hit save, it's going to go blue here. And again, that can change. Blue is just one of our colors. It's going to go blue to say, hey, you've actioned this. That one's good for that inspection item. Couple additional things I want to mention here is you can add documents, so you can upload files to any of these inspection questions as you're reviewing them on site. So you can select a file to upload. Once you hit save, you can also edit them to be non-compliant, and you can enter information around that non-compliance, and that will spur a workflow of sending an email to the individual that you're doing an inspection for, letting them know, that ties them back to the portal, letting them know you have something that you're not compliant for with your inspections. A couple other items here. I'll drop down to the personnel. So you can capture images just like you did in due form. So if you're on site, you want to capture an image or a video of your inspection, you can do that. I can show you this on my phone too, if we have some time after this to show you what it looks like to capture an image and upload it here for a specific inspection item. Also, just like you're able to do in due forms, you can do a digital signature when you're completing that inspection to make sure you have an authorized rep that signs off on the inspection form that you're doing. And then once you're done, you hit submit changes. I didn't save a lot of my changes, so it's telling me, hey, you didn't save these. But this is going to link back to the database once you hit submit changes, whether you're online or offline. So you don't have to go back to the office and sync or upload or whatever. It's just going to go ahead and submit back to the back end, the Geo Suite prod environment. A little bit different, just to kind of show the different ways that you can do an inspection. So for a vehicle inspection, you're going to have very specific questions around, you know, what's the vehicle type. It can have preloaded options for you depending on what type of vehicle that they're reviewing. They can enter that information, enter mileage. They can also upload, you know, documents, pictures, and all that stuff too as well from the inspection. Multiple people can be in the same inspection at the same time. So you can have multiple people working on an inspection at one time, because we understand there's certain agencies where maybe there's somebody that does specifically like policies and procedures, and then maybe there's somebody else that does like vehicle inspections in this case, or maybe they do financial inspections, or maybe they do some sort of like child safety inspections that may be different than your standard inspection too. So multiple people can be using this at the same time. Multiple people can be entering information at the same time as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about, so this is live and available to all of you guys right now. So if you want to add a new form as well, you can do that as well. Again, you're not going to lose any functionality from the old due forms, and it will only increase in its functionality and ability going forward in the future. And again, you do not have to be online using the URL to access this. I can access it simply here through the app that I've downloaded. And again, security rules are going to apply. So depending on your security rule with your agency, and when you log in and enter your credentials, it's going to know, what's your load of inspections, which ones do you have scheduled, what are you, maybe you're over a specific region, it's going to pre-populate those ones in your region. Okay. So that's a little bit about mobile inspections. If anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer that. Looks like there's a few questions in there. Happy to discuss more if questions come up, or at the end, I can invite people to come on stage to talk about it. So the next one, the new product offering, finally, DocuSign integration. Okay, we're here. For those of you, probably most everybody, if you've bought a house or refinanced, or done some real estate transaction, probably are familiar with DocuSign. It's digital signatures. So we are integrating with DocuSign. So this is not a Geo Solutions product. This is Geo Solutions integrating with DocuSign. So what that means is digital signatures integrated, and this can be applied for the back end. So like if you needed a supervisor to sign off on something, or a commissioner maybe, if they need to sign off something, you can integrate with DocuSign to have that supervisor or manager sign off using DocuSign. Or it can be obviously from the applicant on the public-facing websites to use DocuSign. And again, if you go to the handouts on the Demio site, there's a one sheet about a little bit more information about DocuSign, but I also want to show what this integration looks like with DocuSign. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this here. So I'm going to just log in really quick to, this is a front-facing website. So this would be for the public portal to log in. And just a minute here. So once I log in, this should look pretty familiar with those that are on Configurable Web. So this is your Configurable Web dashboard, right? I'm logged in as an individual, Axel Foley, and I'm going to go do an application to show you the DocuSign integration. So I go here, I select an application. Again, we just did this for an EMT application. So I already have this application kind of pre-filled out with some of my information here. I have this last requirement of issuing a government ID. So, this might look really familiar to a lot of you, but if I uploaded a document for this last requirement, hit save, what that's going to do is spur this EMT attestation, right? So this attestation, you're going to have a checkbox that's going to say, yes, I'm attesting to this. I'm saying all the information that I've supplied here is true, and, upholding ethical standards there for the information that I've provided. And then upon save, what it's going to do is it's going to redirect you to DocuSign to then go and fill out this information on DocuSign. And so what it does is it redirects you to DocuSign. You say, I agree to use electronic records and signatures, continue. And it's going to have your application attestation. So that message that you saw on the web that you were attesting to and you clicked a box, this is an example of how DocuSign can take that into a document and format for you to be able to just simply click. It's going to bring up, I've preloaded my, my signature here, my initials for Axel Foley, and I can select, yep, adopt and sign. So it's going to sign this application attestation form. And once I've finished, I hit finish. And what that's going to do is that's going to process. So a couple things are going to happen here. It's going to tell you, hey, you successfully signed this document with a digital signature. On the back end, it's going to create a record of this digital signature for this attestation. And it's also going to send you an email notifying you that you just signed this digital document through DocuSign. Okay, so it's going to send you an email letting you know, hey, you just signed this document, and it's going to give that individual that document that they signed in their email. It's also going to store it into the back end, right? And then how you can think about it, it's very similar on the back end. If a manager or supervisor needs to sign that, in the back end of the system, it will just also integrate you to DocuSign to be able to sign a document, and that will store in the back end. If you guys want, I can show you. I can show you the email that was just sent to me, letting me know the document that I just signed here. Let me get it pulled up here. So if you guys can see this here, it's going to not only give me a PDF version of the DocuSign, the form that I just signed, and it's going to let me know that, hey, you've signed this form for your records. So that's DocuSign integration. Let me exit out of here. The next product offering that we have rolled out is the GL Suite translation. So what this does is it translates to any language. So it'll translate all text on website to another language, 80+ language options. So if English is not your first language and you prefer to review your websites in another language, it's going to translate them into the language that you go and select. So we have a little video here. It's kind of hard for me to demo this in real time. So we have a little video of showing you what this would look like from an applicant's perspective on a website. So you can see here, they have an option. We just uploaded Espanol to make it a little bit more simple, but you see how all of the information on the public-facing websites are now in Spanish. So when the applicant is conversing on the website and going through their requirements or anything that they need to review, it's all presented in Spanish. So I'll let this play a little bit, but it shows not only menu items are in Spanish, everything that they could select or do is in Spanish. Not only the buttons they select, but the items that they fill in. And once they've selected something, it populates in Spanish. And what I want to do is, this video shows the phone view as well. So I'll let it play here just a little bit to show you what it looks like from the perspective of a cell phone, the language translation here. So he's just showing, different fields you can enter for Spanish. I'll let it play for a little bit. So he's toggling back and forth between English and Spanish. This is the phone view, so this is what it would look like on your phone in Spanish again. Or I guess he chooses French here, so you can see different items in French. So not only does it work for mobile, it works for on your desktop or laptop. What I'd like to talk about next is, so how does that translate to the back end, right? So what's going to happen is, so the information on the front-facing web is going to be in the language that they select. They'll enter their information. That information is going to be pulled into GL Suite in the native language. So if they selected Spanish and they enter Spanish to reply to a requirement, the GL Suite backend is going to pull that into the backend as Spanish, originally, and then it's going to translate it to English for your staff to review. So when they see it, they're going to see English just as they normally would, right? But the system's always going to, and here's what he's showing is the change log where it came into our system in Spanish. Why we think this is really important is you're going to want an audit log of what people replied to in their native language. So just because it's showing up in English for you guys to translate it and action it, we still keep the Spanish version of what they uploaded from the web. So you don't lose, maybe somebody replied in Spanish and it was translated to English. You can always go back and see like what they specifically responded to in a requirement in their native language. Okay. So those are the new features that are available now that have rolled out. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Yes, Russian is available in any language that you guys can think of is available. One of the last things I want to talk about, so we're constantly working on how to make the process for submitting tasks easier and less invasive for you guys at the agencies and staff. And so we've done some work on this and we're continuing to do some work on this. And so this is something that we're working on right now. So it's not available at this current moment, but we wanted to give you guys a heads up of what's coming out and what's going to be available is we are adding, so we have some screenshots because it's not live right now, but what we're working on is, so the new submit a task tool. So for those of you that are not current GL Solutions clients, once you implement your system and you go live and you're going, you're now just living in tech support land where you're entering enhancements and defects and things like that. You upload them, you create your task directly through the prod environment where you're working. And there's a couple of changes that we're looking to make. So essentially, like the easiest way I know how to explain this is we're trying to make it a click entry. We're trying to alleviate and negate the necessity of entering any information, like typing out any information, excuse me. So what it does is it allows the user to select existing tasks that may already be out there or recent records that they've entered a task for to drill into the issue that's encountered. So the system is now being comprehensive in the fact that like you may have already submitted a task. You may want to link a task and say that similar issue is happening, or I want to make similar adjustments as I did in this other task, or I want to use a similar record that I did in a previous task. You can link tasks together. You can link them together as far as the record that they were on. And so we're using AI to generate the task details based on the information that has been selected. So now when you go into submit a task, as similarly as you do now, you select submit a task, and it's going to not only pre-populate, like, are you creating a new task? What project is it for? It's going to allow you to search by a record, by a job, or like a scheduled job, by something like that. You're able to select it. And then what it's going to do is once you select that, it's going to say everything that's, because we track every single change, click, update that's made, you're going to be able to select what you want. You're going to be able to select what changes happened or what was the problem, really. Like there's a problem while saving. It created an application. There's an automation that ran, so it sent a portal notification. So you're just going to be able to click those items and saying, yeah, that was the problem. That's what I want to submit to GL Solutions. And then what it's going to do is it's going to pull up the change status, what had changed, and the automations that triggered for that item that you've selected. So really, you think about it like now when you're submitting a task, you type in the record, or you type in what the problem was, like with a scheduled job or a report or something like that. You click it. You click the change that you're wanting to communicate to GL Solutions that was either a problem or that you want to change. And then you're able to click the change that you felt was defective or that you want to change. And then what that does is it's going to pre-populate and fill out the task subject, description of issue, expected result, and replication steps. And it's also going to capture that record that you selected. So all of this right here on the right-hand side is just pre-populated for you. You don't have to go and enter any of this information any longer. Now, you can go in and edit this information. So if you want to provide specific descriptions or expected results or replication steps that maybe you want to expand upon what AI produced, you can. So I don't want you to feel like you're locked out from the ability to expand on the tasks that you're entering, but hopefully this will help with that. You don't have to type in this information and thoroughly explain to us, like, what were you doing? What steps did you take? How did you get here? All of that stuff will just be pre-populated and loaded. So what we're hoping is that you'll be able to do, with a couple clicks, you'll be able to just submit a task. And that will route to us the same way that it's been routing to us. We're trying to take some of the manual labor out of this and support you guys. And then also how we benefit from this is we'll get more specific information around what you're calling out in that task to enter to help us diagnose either the issue or the change that you would like to submit without having to go back and ask you for further clarifying information. So again, this is not released right now. This is something that we're working on. So in a future webinar, I'll probably have more information and more. I'll be able to walk through it in real time with you guys and show it to you actually utilizing this and have more questions about that. So we get it. We've talked to a lot of our clients. A lot of our clients have said, if you could help with lessening the load of entering tasks, that would be really helpful. This is one way that we know how to use technology to make it easier for you guys to submit tasks. Let's just make it pre-populate for you, because we're already tracking all of this stuff in the system. Okay, thank you so much for attending. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar right now. I'll see you next time, and I appreciate all of you, and thank you so much.